everyone. Welcome to the pilot episode of what we seem to be calling the Architect and the Operative. My name is Selim Maalouf, and joining me is James Bond.
Hello, hello.
I heard that you're not that James Bond.
No, I wish. I wish I was.
Yeah.
I got sued. You know the story, I got sued, right?
Oh, you're definitely going to have to tell us about that. But people who have been in calls with James might notice a little icebreaker where he has next to his name, yes, this is my real name, because everybody asks, are you the real James Bond? But thank you for listening. The Architect and the Operative. What is that? What are we doing here? I know everybody and their grandmother has started a podcast in the past 2-3 years. I myself have recorded over 60 podcast episodes, produced them myself. So I know there's a lot of podcasting happening out there. But first of all, who are we? James, who are you? And why should people care about what you have to say?
Oh my God. So who am I? So I find myself in an interesting place given where I've come from. Spent the overwhelming bulk of my career in one industry, but was on multiple sides of that industry. Entrepreneur at heart, right? My dad was an entrepreneur. I feel like I have that in my DNA. It's just who I am. And over time I was in the fitness equipment industry, but not like the fitness side, not like the club side, in the business side. So distribution, sales, marketing, leadership, ownership, built multiple companies from the ground up, and it went that whole startup to millions kind of route, and had tremendous successes, and also got kicked in the teeth, and have had to start over more than once. And I was on my way to building what I thought was going to be my new industry and sort of my dream company. And I'll just leave it at I had a life tragedy, and it was significant. And I took some time off. I took a few years off, basically. When I got ready to come back, I'm like, okay, here's the 3 people I need to call. Made one phone call. It went great. Made another phone call. And you know how in life things just turn up, they just show up in front of you when they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And man, on that phone call, I was actually inviting a friend of ours to work on a project, and it literally less than 4 days later, it's the opposite. I got convinced to work on a different project, on his project. So all of a sudden I found myself on the software side. What I find interesting is my whole business career, I had such a fascination with the software side, and the power that it could have, yet just screwed it up multiple times. I wanted to nail it. I really, I saw it. I'm a believer. I didn't have to be convinced. It's not like I was a hard sell. I had the vision, and time and time again, man, I just screwed it up. I didn't have the right mindset. I didn't have the right goal in mind. I didn't approach it correctly, and so just never ended up with really the tool that I wanted. Secondly, as a team member in other companies, like sales leader, continuously found technology to be a problem for the company, found it to be a hindrance, found it to be a negative, found it to be a part of the negative culture in multiple organizations. And so just have had a passion for that side. So when the opportunity to join the software industry came up, and just talk to businesses all day long and work through the challenges they're having, and bring software to the table as a potential solution for them, man, it was like a dream come true, honestly. So long story to who I am, and there's probably more, but that's how I got here. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you got here, because First of all, this podcast wouldn't be happening because that's going to be the best thing ever we've done. And you wouldn't have met me, of course,
Of course.
So hopefully, people who are watching this, hopefully, if I'm doing this correctly, know who I am already. But who the hell is Selim Maalouf, and why should you care about what I have to say? I started my life overseas. My mom is American. My dad is Lebanese. I'm from Lebanon originally and spent most of my life there. And I am formally trained as an industrial engineer. I did the whole works of going to college, being the nerd, doing engineering, worked as a designer for 3 years, and then as an applications engineer in the pre-sales team for another 3 years, doing complex B2B implementations, seven-figure projects in Europe and Middle East. And sadly, also tragedy struck, and I moved halfway across the world back to the U.S. I am from the U.S., so I moved back, and I joined an industrial group here. I ran 4 of their brands inside of HubSpot, and I kept finding myself as the de facto HubSpot admin everywhere I go. I was the marketer, but I ended up being the de facto HubSpot admin. And then I moved to another industrial shop, and I joined as a marketer and ended up also as a HubSpot admin. And then, funny how things go in the industrial space. The marketing teams always seem to be expendable. So the entire marketing team of 5 people got cut, at from its roots, just cut out the entire marketing team. So me and my at the time manager and after the fact co-founder decided, hey, this HubSpot thing, we could do it. We've been doing it for ourselves. We could do it for others. And so we started a plucky little solutions partner, joined the partner, the partner ecosystem. And like you mentioned, the entrepreneurial route, let's say when we did that, we didn't do it by choice, but we did it because, we had just been laid off. The other option would be to painstakingly try to find a job for the next 7-8 months and trade. So it made sense to start, but I ran out of runway at around 11 months. So I stumbled my way into an elite HubSpot solutions partner. And that's not where I am right now. So let's leave it at that. I'm also at another elite solutions partner where I met the amazing James Bond. No, not that one. But that's the long story of who I am and why potentially you should care. I would love it if you cared, but you don't have to care. Just watch the video and click like and subscribe and, share it with a friend. But
dude, let me say, since you just went through your whole background, which I haven't heard that full story, which is awesome. Your mix of from a engineering, technical, architecture standpoint, highly detail oriented, combined with your marketing creativity, I don't think, I have been around the block, man. I have been in a lot of different sides of an industry. I've sat at the table at CEOs. I've played golf with some super crazy people. Your mix, I've never seen anything like it. In fact, I really don't think I've seen that mix before. I can't even, your background leading up to this, maybe that explains it. I don't think it does. Somehow in your DNA, something got, it's almost like you were a Petri experiment and something, I feel like there's a cartoon where something dropped in and
it's like the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, and out came this yes, I'm part engineering and super structured and super technical. And then, and by the way, I'm about to blow your mind with this marketing campaign, this creative side of me. It's quite fascinating, dude. I'm not
I really appreciate it.
Smoke, but I
really appreciate it. I really wish you were signing my paycheck though.
Well,
but here's the thing. the way I made my way into marketing was actually during my time as an industrial engineer. I worked around 6 years into design and then in the applications team. And at some point, if I wanted to grow there in Lebanon, there's kind of this glass ceiling for individual contributors in the technical realm. Like you cannot grow to a director level. You cannot grow to like a CTO level. There's no technical track beyond, senior IC. And then you have a choice. You either go into management where you're managing teams. I I hope nobody has to endure me managing them. That's the last thing I want to be doing. I would love to tell you what to do, but I don't want to be responsible for your KPIs and output. let's leave it at that. So I commend every manager that can keep their head on their shoulders. But so it's either that or you go into sales and marketing. I contrary to popular belief, I'm not a good salesperson, but I enjoy creative writing a lot, and I am a fast learner. Engineering school forces you to, deep dive into documentation and just learn on your own because they can't teach you everything. And the concept of engineering is, oh, here's some building blocks, go figure it out. And I figured out marketing. And I enjoyed creative writing. I used to write, creative stories, opinion pieces. If someone follows me on LinkedIn, knows I'm super opinionated to the point where I get in trouble sometimes. But I've learned, I've learned across the years to toe that line of like, oh, I won't get in trouble, but people actually can hear an opinion instead of just regurgitating some Google search that I ended up. So I started my marketing journey at the same company that I worked as an engineer. So I was their first marketing executive. I bootstrapped the whole department and started doing things. And my start was in the industrial space. And you're familiar with the industrial space. They're super stingy for anything that's not directly related to the production of the product. So sales, marketing, you have a shoestring budget and you have to make things work. And so that's where I learned all of my marketing chops. So that's why you'll understand that, oh, when it comes to paid ads, I immediately say, go hire someone to do that for us. I'm not touching that. I'm not experienced in doing that. And I kind of don't want to burn the budget trying to learn that. So I'm not experienced in paid ads, trade publications. I've never done that. So the traditional marketing side, but what I could figure out on my own is the organic stuff, the stuff that doesn't cost money but costs time. So I, funnily enough, all that time ago, I stumbled upon the HubSpot blog and learned about inbound marketing and content marketing, and that's where it's all started. The entire spark of what can I do with the limited budget that I have because I have a lot of time instead. And that's where all of my marketing skills have developed. But I'll tell you this, I have not been in a situation where I've been able to reap the fruits of what I built. So organic marketing is always a long tail play, and I've never been allowed to stick around to be able to see the results of that. So if someone comes in and says, oh, Selim is an accomplished marketer, I'll be
I challenge you.
Define accomplished. I've done a lot.
I mean, I challenge you because, it's not necessarily all wrapped around a particular position or entity. It's wrapped around who you are. And so, you know what I mean? Like my comment is your mix of talents and who you are is somebody that has a fresh take and a creative way to solve problems, and people recognize that, and you have a name for yourself to the extent that you do, more than I do. And so that's the culmination, right?
Yeah. And I keep
that doesn't happen.
I keep at it.
It doesn't just happen, is my point.
I know, but I keep at it. That's because I believe in it. But if someone, I don't know, if a P&G or, a Unilever comes in and says, hey, want to make you our CMO, what's your track record? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want to go through that line of questioning because I don't have receipts.
Yeah. You know what? just mute my mic or something if you're ready me to just move on to a topic. But there's something that you said that it just clicked for me. It's not just that you have details on one side and creative on the other. You have that architecture part in you, the engineer side of you, and you have the marketing side in you. That's a rare mix. But here's what does work, and what most people don't really fully get about CRMs is that there's more than one way to solve a problem. So, right, we use HubSpot on a regular basis, and there are problems that come up. And what most people don't understand, they're looking for hey, how do I do this? As opposed to, hey, I have this problem and I need a solution. And so adding that creativity, which is a side of you for marketing, that's a creative side, you blend that in on the engineering side to find the solution. And so that actually that clicked. I see those working together more than I realize.
I really appreciate it. And honestly, I apologize. I don't have the same length spiel for you, but
no, it's not just for I mean, for me, I think
yeah,
it's not just about you. It's just about the way to approach things. Like, we're here talking about CRMs. I mean, the way to approach things is not just about a feature set. It's not just about, I want to, we'll talk about it. But I think people will see sort of how that I have it too. You don't have to talk about it. I'll talk about myself. I have that too. Like, I have a burning desire to solve problems and be creative when doing it. I just can't sit down and draw the diagrams because I would put a fork in my eye if I had to do that.
Yeah. And in fact, we had planned to talk about hey, why are we starting a podcast? I think it's obvious. We want to have fun, and podcasts are fun. I've done a lot of podcasting in my time, and I find some pieces of it that are really fun. But when it's not tied to, I need to drive leads for my company, then it stops being stressful. So I think that part's clear. I want to use this time to dig into more what you're talking about and a lot of the HubSpot ecosystem. And we're going to start, being spicy a little bit. A lot of the marketing ecosystem, not the marketing ecosystem. In fact, it's a fumble because I'm thinking about people who started marketing and ended up in the HubSpot ecosystem. Tom Richard always throws around the marketing bros, a little quip. Honestly, that is a problem with the current ecosystem, especially when it comes to the more technical integrations. The world is not buying into, one platform that does everything. And the world needs point solutions, but also needs solutions that talk to each other. If you're familiar with Scott Brinker, he's the author of the MarTech map, and he's VP of platform at HubSpot. He talks about composable systems that have the ability to connect to each other and don't necessarily only work in a vacuum. That kind of work is really outside the purview of marketing people who are just, teaching people how to send emails and do sequences inside of HubSpot. Even a lot of people who've been watching the LinkedIn space maybe 2 years or 3 years ago, a lot of talk around, you can break into tech by learning RevOps. I'm a firefighter and I can't do firefighting anymore. I'm going to do RevOps. Or I used to be a school teacher. No dig at anyone, but that was the real case of RevOps was this career that you can break into with no need for formal education. You don't have to have industry specific experience. All you need is a brain, the functioning brain, and 2 opposable thumbs, and you're good. And you can learn I told you I'm being spicy. But
pretty rough. But
what
okay.
I'm saying is there's a lot of that. And these people are really smart and they've learned the ropes and now are really excelling at their job. But their backgrounds are not from software development. So they don't understand what truly a database is. But they don't understand what it means for structured tables to talk to each other and what a unique key is and how like it's the, how all of these systems are built is such an opaque concept for them, and all they operate on is what they've learned in the HubSpot ecosystem, which is great. But the moment you pull them out of HubSpot, that knowledge disappears because it's only based on what HubSpot has taught them, and it's not based on how all of the software is architected. All of the software is basically, at the end of the day, structured tables with a user interface. If you understand that, then you start understanding how things connect and how two pieces of software can magically talk to each other. If you understand how these things are built, it's not that crazy. But yeah, that was just a little thing for me to say, like, people like you and I are needed in this space. Talking about HubSpot the technical way is not something that's ubiquitous, and there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of people talking about. There's a lot of people who basically learned on the job. They learned how to run sales operations from what HubSpot has taught them. What HubSpot teaches is great, but there's some true professionals in the business consulting space that understand how revenue needs to operate, how sales teams need to operate efficiently. And they are most of the time tool agnostic. They understand how a good sales process works. They understand the need for tools and automations. And once you hit that point of, okay, we'll understand how a good process works, then they go look for a tool that can adapt to that process and allow them to execute that process, versus what ends up happening is people graduate from a 2 to 3 person company and they feel like, oh, we're growing up as a company. We need a CRM. Let's reach out to a partner, and that partner, all they know is the HubSpot way. So that company builds a HubSpot instance and they're operating just from knowledge that is basically repurposed academy courses. And they don't have that true knowledge of process. And if they don't bring in an expert from outside, then all of that process is basically why other ecosystems laugh at us.
Okay. I didn't know we were being laughed at, but okay.
Oh,
So
I if you ever have the time to try to peek into the Salesforce space, if somebody mentions HubSpot, that's gonna be brutal, because everybody's like, oh, it's a Fisher Price CRM. What are you guys doing? Go play with your toys. Like, let us grown-ups build actual CRM systems. Go play with your little orange toys.
yeah. I mean, okay. I don't know. I mean, if I were them, it would suck that everybody hates the product that pays them. I don't know. I mean, that's just the reality. I've never met anybody that loved using the product. My experience is people use the product, and this is not a Salesforce bash session. I get it, but just sharing my experience. I'm a ex-Salesforce customer in a big way. But it's complicated to use. It's difficult. It's clunky. I never liked it one time, but the reason I bought it was what was known. It was the biggest, and I was a growing company at $20 million, and I had a 50 salesperson team, and I couldn't figure out what they were doing, and I needed to get them off Post-it notes and into a system. And so Salesforce is what I knew. And I can't tell you the amount of customers that we talk to on a regular basis that are just there by default.
It's the IBM of the CRM space.
I mean, it is. And I don't know, Selim, how much we want it. I didn't intend to like go in that direction necessarily with Salesforce. I mean, when we get to it, I got a story about my own implementation, and it's not really picking on Salesforce. I hold myself accountable. I hold myself for approaching it, incorrectly. I mean, it's on them too. I mean, they sold me the product and really did not implement it correctly, or at least didn't support me in the implementation correctly. But I mean, I own that decision as a business owner, right? I didn't vet it out completely. I didn't go into the conversation with, okay, what is it I'm looking to achieve? Where am I at now? with my current tools, which were zero on the CRM side? And then what do I need to accomplish? And how is Salesforce going to fill the gap? And what does that need to look like, the product? How does Salesforce need to look and work for me to actually get this achieved result? Like, that was on me as an owner. I didn't go through that process. I just flipped the switch and bought the IBM. That's just what I did.
Yeah. And you're not alone. In fact, up until 2 or 3 years ago, that was the quote unquote best solution. It's not great, but it's the best out there for companies of those sizes. And if it weren't for HubSpot's desire and decision to push into enterprise, we wouldn't be having these conversations today. The past 2.5 years have been frenetic. Like the product is not recognizable if you've had a 2-year pause from, keeping up with HubSpot news. If you vetted HubSpot maybe in 2021, you were basically vetting the best marketing automation platform and some other tools that HubSpot's trying to push on you. You weren't vetting a full customer platform that rivals Salesforce and other solutions. I wouldn't consider Microsoft Dynamics a solution. It's more of a problem, but
yeah, there's really no other at this level. But I mean,
yeah. But basically, it's funny. We recently had a conversation with a business consulting firm, and we're talking about business consulting, not like people who work inside of a CRM and teach people how to use a CRM. No, we're talking true business consulting. The Deloittes of the world, and they have a little subsidiary that does Salesforce implementations because. And I don't know about you, but I've been through multiple like digital transformation products back in like 2014, 2015, where like the CRM revolution was not there yet. Everybody was still doing paper process, and everybody was trying to figure out, okay, these pieces of paper that we lug around the organization, how are we going to do that on a computer? Like it was a big revolution. People think about it. And it was led by business consulting firms like this one we were chatting with. And at some point they hit okay, now let's choose the software stack that we're going to work with to implement this theory of a business process that you've got. And like everybody else, Salesforce is the de facto, nobody gets fired for buying IBM. So nobody gets fired for buying Salesforce. They implement Salesforce because nobody's going to buy anything other than Salesforce. We talked to this gentleman, and he started, at first he was like, yeah, HubSpot's cool, but we don't do marketing projects. We're not talking about marketing. He's like, oh, yeah. We told him HubSpot can go toe-to-toe in specific instances with everything that Salesforce does and all the Salesforce suite. He's like, oh, what do you mean? And then we started describing, okay, the smart CRM at the base and all the tools on top and all the composability and connections and all developed APIs and how you can connect everything to it and all of that. And suddenly his ears perked up and started asking questions. Oh, do you do this? Do you do that? How do you handle, middleware? Do you use MuleSoft? We told him, no, we have something else similar to that. How do you handle all of that? And suddenly he's in a different conversation. He started a conversation as a favor to us because he likes us as individuals, but ended up being like, wait, I got to talk to this and that. And now we're having email exchanges about the head of that division talking to us about potentially adding HubSpot as a potential, path. So if they decide, oh, we're going to do HubSpot, it doesn't go to their subsidiary, it goes to someone potentially like us. So like there's a lot there in the business consulting world where people are not keeping up with the Joneses on the HubSpot side. Like they're not keeping up with.
They don't need to.
Yes, because for them, they have a solution. It works.
It's a checkbox done. Like I don't even need to burn my time on that one. You're doing exactly. Salesforce.
But I am feeling, and I'm gonna try to explore that path, of if we kick up enough rocks in the business consulting world where people assume there's no other option than Salesforce, suddenly people are going to start listening because they know how Salesforce works. They basically need a 201 level course of what HubSpot can do that Salesforce does, and then what HubSpot can do better, or the other stuff that Salesforce doesn't touch. Um, so there's a lot of opportunity to go into quote unquote the grown up world outside of let me teach you how to do an email sequence inside of HubSpot because it's super easy. We're talking about like how actual big corporations do business. There's an opportunity there, and that is kind of why I I get annoyed by the ecosystem that is all the time focusing on, oh, look, this little feature, this thing, we can finally do it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And so, let me, if I can just take 1 minute and clarify something. I'm not actually, I don't think Salesforce is a bad product. I'm not here saying it's not good. It doesn't do what HubSpot can do. It's not really a Salesforce versus HubSpot, good or bad. It's not difficult to like create that narrative, but what I'm saying is that the right approach is to have the mindset of what is what. Like, be real about what it is. And if you want to implement a new tool, you want to implement something in your business, it's got to fit in with the culture. It's got to fit in with the goals you're trying to achieve. And to the degree that it doesn't is the degree that it's going to hinder performance in sales and hinder your ability to create the culture you want, right? Which we're assuming a positive, empowered culture, right? And so it's not that Salesforce is a bad product. It's like extremely robust. But there's a user experience of it, and there's a developer experience of it, and there is an administrative experience of it that is intensive. And from a user experience, it can be challenging, and the other experiences can be challenging. And that's okay. If you can take that on and make it work, great. As long as you're approaching it knowing that to get what you want and to get out of it what you need, it may require some lift. And you got to really dig into that.
The scale of organization where those challenges are worth it are not necessarily in this space that a lot of the ecosystem is playing in right now. Like, if you're a multinational corporation with a lot of business units inside of multiple jurisdictions, HubSpot is definitely not for you. If you are in if you're a corporation that is doing like 1,000 seats, HubSpot is definitely not for you. Salesforce is the place to be. But it's when these small organizations that didn't have any other option other than Salesforce can now benefit from going to a more intuitive, less burdensome, less costly platform where the conversation has the ability to derail into a dumb place, let me just say, but we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. I remember recently, and I should link you. There was a couple months ago, conversation between our lovely friend Max Cohen from Happily and a couple of implementers from the Salesforce space, small time implementers, not the big corporations. But they had a conversation around, okay, who should choose what, and like who's better. And the whole conversation devolved around Blue Team is saying HubSpot is not for the big boys and might as well jump on the big blue cloud early because you're going to switch away from HubSpot. And Max being like, tell me what is that line? Please explain to me and I'll tell you. Like, it's this vague, like, oh, if you're serious, you don't use HubSpot. But like, explain it to me. And nobody can, because that confusion is where they make their money. Uh,
Well, yeah, it's not. I don't know if I would call it confusion. I might call it like kind of a
Obfuscation.
veil of arrogance is what I was going to say. I mean, it's just like a veil of arrogance, and it links back to in reality. So you're talking about the big consulting firms, right? They're communicating through spreadsheets and PowerPoint. They're communicating through big concepts. They're not here's what I don't believe. I'm not in the room with these people, but I don't believe that they are in there thinking about what's the experience of that person who's making the sale, who's creating the marketing, who's customer service, who's answering a support ticket, who's at the computer working through doing their job. Like, I don't think they're thinking in that perspective.
Because that's not their
And
client. The
and it's
executive team is their client.
that's right. And this is the whole reason I'm interested in doing the podcast with you, is that it's that it's that guy, that person that I want to talk to and get them thinking about, man, yeah, it can check the box, but what is the experience of the people doing the work? Because I believe no one will ever pull this from me. This belief is that the happier / more fulfilled / more empowered, whatever adjective you want to add to it, how that person feels doing their job can make or break your company. And if it goes rampant in a negative way, you got real problems. You may or may not know it, but man, I've seen it. It can absolutely be because of the technology you're using. Absolutely.
Uh, I'm gonna be vague, but people could easily figure out what company that was. But they had AX12 on-prem, fully custom coded, between multiple business units, and we had a HubSpot instance at the time, and it was connected to nothing, and they wanted to, in separate conversations, rip out HubSpot because we don't need it, but also do a system of automated notification emails when shipments are ready to go, when bills of ladings are put together, when like things are ready to go out, and prompt people to pay their invoices. I'm not going to tell you how long that project took and what the result was, but I'm going to ask you, how long would it take to do that inside of HubSpot today?
I mean, in and of itself, not long at all. I mean, I just did
Assuming the data is in HubSpot, how long would it take you to set up a notification system?
assuming it's in HubSpot. I mean, we're talking like minutes. What I'm talking about is
Yes.
we just did a deal where we connected to their ERP, got the information back, and have created what you just said. And that whole project is like less than 6 weeks, start to finish, done.
Yep.
That's done.
Yep. And it costs around, 6, 7, 10, 15, how many thousands of dollars? Let's say $15,000. Our project was canceled at 16 months, and what we reached was a template that was tested internally and didn't trigger correctly. 16 months. I was the person. I was not the champion of that project. I was the person tasked to make sure that the project is moving and make people accountable. Needless to say, that project is what got me to get out of there, because there was like an NIS team that was just hoarding all the access to this custom coded instance. And when I say AX12, I mean 2012. They were operating that in 2021. So like you're familiar with the industrial space. Oh,
Yeah.
industrial. But yeah, so it's just a matter of let the right people design your solutions. Let the right people not choose the platform for you, but advise you the best options you have out there. Make smart decisions, and hopefully those smart decisions are working with us and implementing HubSpot.
Yeah. I mean, we're the evangelists.
Yeah.
But I think that laying on top of of that talk track is that there's a tendency, and I've noticed this, there's a tendency for leadership and ownership to treat a software purchase different than other purchases. You purchase, let's say you're in manufacturing, like you said, right? When you buy a new machine, there's no manufacturer in the world that buys a new machine that doesn't ask about, factor in, what am I going to need to do to maintain this? What am I going to need to do to make sure it's got longevity?
Not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
the industrial leadership is so adept at buying capital equipment for industrial, and they do everything right, and you watch them do everything right, and they're very smart people. But when it comes to software, I've never seen dumber than that. Like, you know that they know everything they need to look for. They know that the service of the capital equipment is important. The upkeep is important. The maintenance is important. They sign off on commissioning for that machine. Like, they know how it's done. But when it comes to software, suddenly we're not buying the best solution. We're just buying the cheapest with the fastest implementation. And when it breaks, we get angry at the software and be like, rip it out, put a new one.
Yeah. Or off a brochure that has check boxes. Okay, great. So I'm the CEO and I'm delegating to the team to go find the software to fix this problem that they're telling me about. And then they bring it back and say, look at all these check boxes. But huge missed opportunity. I mean, huge missed opportunity. Like how are you going to get the ROI on a purchase if you're not focusing in on what it's going to accomplish, like truly what it's going to accomplish? Too much delegation when that happens. And I just see it all the time. It breaks my heart, because when you delegate like that without real involvement, asking the same questions you would ask if you're hiring a new salesperson or hiring a new marketer or hiring a new shift leader or building or buying a new machine. Those acquisitions of talent or machinery, human capital or working capital, like those investments are the same, could be the same into your technology stack. We call it tech stack. It's the same. If you went the same mentality into that, then that can actually fuel. I feel like it can fuel your people, as opposed to solving the problem that they keep telling me about because the boxes are checked. Big missed opportunity.
You are a seasoned professional, you would say, right?
Well, I would say it whether I am or not, but I would say it, sure.
I am 33 going on 34. Some might say in the tech world I'm old, but I feel I'm quite inexperienced, and I would love for you to impart some of your experience on me. And this podcast, I feel, is the best place to do so. So I want to give you the opportunity to tell me some tales from the trails of James.
My God. Well, first, let me start by doing something really stupid, which is where I started in software, which was on Act. I'm not even sure you were alive. Like, I know my daughters were not even alive when I was using the CRM Act. Like, I don't know. It's crazy. That's how I feel like I shouldn't have said that out loud, but that's where I started in Act, and honestly loved it. I mean, wow, what a great tool, right? I'm out and about, I'm managing a team, and I've got I got my database, on my computer, and I can, it was phenomenal. So that's where I started. But something happened, and I alluded to this earlier, and it's a little bit of the same philosophy, but just putting my own experience to it. Something happened when I went from leadership position fighting for technology for my team, losing most of the time, but fighting nonetheless, to ownership. When I went into ownership, I still had the vision, I still had the belief, I still had the CRM, and we had to put a CRM in. But somewhere along the way, I lost it. I don't know what happened. I think I had cost in my head. I think I had time. I had the magic wand, like, what do you call it? Like, not a dilemma, but like I had the desire to have that magic wand. Oh, I just bought Salesforce. We're the shit. Like, I just bought Salesforce for 50 people in my company, and we were the first ones in the industry doing that to make that move.
It's going to solve all of my problems.
I thought that was it. I thought my job had been done. I thought, man, I made the purchase.
We peaked.
I pulled the trigger.
Peaked. We bought Salesforce.
And I remember my salesperson, and back in the day, back in that time, young man, back in that time, the salesperson was in person. I mean, she walked into my headquarters, and we had a meeting about buying it, and then I bought it, and then she came back, and we had a meeting about onboarding, and I was like, $8,000 for I just, what are you talking about? I just agreed to spend $40,000 with you. Now I got to pay you $8,000 for you to teach me the software. Like, I was infuriated. And, I had a similar conversation today with somebody who was kind of in my shoes, approaching it that way earlier today. And so, I mean, I have some empathy of where that comes from, but what I have now is historical perspective and personal experience that, had I approached that properly, it might have made a significant impact on the company. And what a missed opportunity. Honestly, I get like really upset thinking about it, not because I made a mistake, but because I think about the salespeople that were trying to use the product and getting frustrated, and me hounding them and having to do the whole, if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist rule, because that was the only way I could get them to use the system. And I got there because, I mean, I'm not trying to put it on anybody else, but I just didn't know. Like, the rep didn't get me to the point where I understood the value of getting implemented correctly. Just didn't get there. And I did it poorly, and it was very expensive and very unproductive. And it honestly was one of the biggest mistakes I made as an entrepreneur, doing that. That was a huge investment. I mean, it was we were a $20 million company. I mean, I guess $40,000 a year it's fine, but you got to spend 40 and then cut short on getting it done right is insane. I had a call today, and this is coming back to today, fast forward, and certainly would never call anybody out in this conversation or, in this podcast, but had a conversation today where there was a real problem. The solution was not complicated. This was not a technical issue. This is just we need help getting our team onboarded. And $1,500 was offensive as a short-term Band-Aid. Please let me help you get the fire put out that you have just been handed. And I mean, it was a non-starter. Now, I'm not bringing that up. It's not about the sale for me. It's not about the $1,500. It's about this guy was in pain, and his team doesn't know how to use the system and won't. Period. They won't now. And I turn that into missed opportunity to really make a difference in how people do their jobs. Like, I take that real personally. And as an owner back then, man, I screwed that up for those people. So it bothers me to this day.
I really feel that sometimes, and we love them to bits, but sometimes the software salespeople obfuscate that cost, and people are doing their budgeting, and they say, "Oh, you told me it's X. My budget is maybe 90% of X. Okay, I'm going to stretch it out. Can you help me out? Okay, we can meet your budget." They do all that conversation. Everybody's happy and like, "Okay, we're at budget. We're ready to go." And then they're like, "One more thing. Here's 20% more fees to get you onboarded." And then people flip out and be like, "What are you doing?" But in my opinion, and this is an unsubstantiated opinion because I've never done sales and I hope I don't have to. I
You
rely
do
on
it more than you realize. It is sales when you don't think you're doing it, by the way.
yeah, but I don't want to be on quota. That's it.
I got you. I don't blame you.
But I think it's a better conversation is from the start, here's the price of the product. And the same way in the industrial space, there's like the price of the product commissioned is not the price of just bill of materials. Like commissioned project includes delivery, includes installation, includes testing, includes all of that. So like a commissioned like CRM instance should not be just the cost of the the software licenses. It shouldn't be just, oh, you need these many seats of these softwares. It should be a fully commissioned project from the get-go. That way people don't feel blindsided and understand that the product itself is not just the software. It's the software and its implementation. But who am I to talk? I've never done software sales. So
I mean, I don't know if he would want me to give him credit for this joke or not. So I won't say his name, but it's Tom. He has a hilarious joke about software salespeople. Do you know the difference between a software salesperson and a used car salesperson? The used car salesperson knows it when they're lying.
I hate how true that is.
Best joke ever, right?
Man,
and I'm so guilty of it. I mean,
yeah.
I have my bank of disclaimers when I'm talking, right? So make sure that I'm like not over promising, but it's difficult.
We've been working together for what, a 4 or 5 months. You've known me to be somewhat of a, let's call it an asshole. But
I have not. You keep saying that. I've not experienced that.
Here's why I'm saying. Here's why I'm saying this. I have a joke that says, there's nobody who hates HubSpot more than elite HubSpot solution partners. And the reason
wait, say that again.
There's nobody that hates HubSpot more than elite HubSpot solution partners. And the reason I say that because we're the people who are diving deep. We are the people who are pushing it to the edge. We're the ones that are breaking it on a daily basis. And that's where the brochures fall apart of like, oh, there's a checklist. We got these features. But how good are these features? How well fleshed out are these features? Are these features stable? Are these features in beta? Most of the time they are, because in the last 2 years, they launched like 1,000 products. I'm not 1000, 1,000.
Yeah, I know.
No, for people listening to 1,000 products. No, literally 4 digits of products. But so there's a lot of cases like that where in the HubSpot like suite, there are little infuriating things, just like HubSpot business units. Yeah, the reason why my
favorite topic.
Yeah, it's a rant that you've heard me go on before, and it's for one reason. At the top of the show, I talked to you about how I came into software sales. I ran 4 brands inside of one HubSpot instance. 4 sets of revenue teams that are working in HubSpot at the same time. Before I say anything else, I have the suspicion that you feel sorry for me.
No, I'm just impressed as always.
I didn't do it well because every day I was fielding requests of, I can't find my accounts. Where are my accounts? And the reason why they can't find their accounts is because someone in another business unit is cross selling and they took ownership of the record and the only view they have. And we're talking about, you know, very well seasoned industrial salespeople who have at some point worked in a Rolodex. So
Yeah, that's
when
my
their
account.
when their view, like, they lose a company record, it's still there. It's not gone. It's just not marked as your ownership. So they keep fighting over, oh, this record and that record. HubSpot in 2021 came out with business units, and I perked up. I was like, damn, yes, this is what I exactly needed. Business units, I can separate records, be like, for every business unit, a record has an owner. I started thinking of all the possibilities. Oh, I could do this, I could do that. I wish I had a bleep button. Business units is not a CRM product. It's a marketing hub product. And we shouldn't call it business units. We should call it brand folders.
Brand. Yes.
We should call it brand folders. It's not business units because
Yes.
every single day we get requests from companies who have multiple business units who are like, how do I set up multiple business units in HubSpot? You don't. Because the CRM does not give you the ability to draw a line in the sand, be like, okay, only like these records are for this business units, these records are for that business units. And if you have cross-sell initiatives, God have mercy on your admins. So right now, if you hear business units in HubSpot, know that these are brand folders that allow you to separate emails, collateral, domains, all of those nice marketing assets you have, but these are not separation for the CRM. So when you get questions like, oh, can I connect NetSuite business units to HubSpot business units? I tell you no, and people look at me and say, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not the same thing. You're connecting apples to oranges, and the oranges have been peeled and have been withering for a while.
So tell us how you really feel.
I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's small things like this, and HubSpot's mission to, jump into the enterprise space. It's a path riddled with fast development, but also there's a lot of little bits and pieces like this. And I've heard rumblings of business units being either changed or deprecated, or because honestly, if you think about it, the way they expect you to solve business units is each business has a portal and each one pays a subscription to get access to HubSpot.
Yeah. Well, in my world, what I wish is that there was some type of separate portal system that worked in a more of a worked in conjunction. So it works like what you just said, and it wasn't full price because it's sort of automatically in conjunction, right? Because we run across that all the time. I mean, where it would be so helpful if franchisee is a great example, right? The franchisor wants to provide the portal, but it's very difficult to have 20, 40, 50, 100 franchisees working out of one portal. We need it to work in a way that is good for the franchisee and yet it's connected to the franchisor. We can do it. Like, I mean, we can do that, but it takes a build to do that. It's not just something that you can just add on.
I did not want to bring up product updates in our pilot episode of this podcast, but I just
But you
wanted
can't
to.
help yourself.
It's in. I forget if it's in private beta. Yeah, it is in private beta. I just want to find. Yes, so private beta only available for 10 customers. Connected data for multiple HubSpot accounts. What is it? With connected data, teams can view customer interactions across multiple connected accounts, which improves teamwork across the platform. I won't go into details. It's basically they're connecting multiple HubSpot portals and accounts and offering the ability to create widgets in one portal using data from another. And if that contact is recognized in another portal, then you get a view of what other portals know about this contact. Amazing. But what it means is every single portal is a paying member.
Yeah. But we might need to talk tomorrow about that.
Well, I have nothing to say more than this. It's a private beta for 10 people. So
all right. Yeah, but
give it some time in the oven. Maybe Q4 this year, we might get a public beta, but this is exactly what we're talking about when they're talking about pushing to enterprise. With that said, this was a fun pilot, I have to admit, James.
awesome. I had fun.
On the daily, we have our work conversations and your real joy to chat with, but this format feels like less consequential. Let me say, I wasn't going to say less serious.
I don't know.
But it feels less consequential.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
And it's just a nice time.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I never have a problem talking, so it seems like,
Yeah, so hopefully, if you're still with us at this point, this was the pilot episode of The Architect and the Operative. Working title, we might change it, we might not, who knows. We'll test it out with a couple of people. We're doing this for fun, but we also would love to grow this. So if you like this, please like, comment, and share wherever you're watching this. It's going to be most likely on Spotify, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. And James, if anyone wants to find you online, where's the best place they can find you?
Email.
But you want people to email you? Yeah, I was just going to say, what I tell people is find me on LinkedIn.
Find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And you're most likely going to see this on LinkedIn anyway, but if you haven't, you can find both me, Selim, and James on LinkedIn. Look us up. We accept 99% of the invitation. Don't pitch slap us, please. But and we're very responsive and we'll love to chat. So anything else you want to add, James?
No, this was fun. I mean, I like that it's a pilot because I think it's just an intro. I think some conversations you and I have had lead me to believe there'll be, a lot of really good discussion. And really the point is just to put a new way of thinking about things. That my goal is to really to get people to just transform the way they think about approaching software in general. Yeah, I'm a HubSpot evangelist, but it starts with just how you approach software. And so hopefully over time that makes an impact.
Yeah. And for me, I'm doing this because I want to be LinkedIn famous. Thank you, everybody.